Oh, no, we've hit something. Oh, we've damaged something. Oh boy, we barely fit into this gap. Bugger.
Officer's Log 16. Stardate 24-03-2081. Today, we need to focus on finishing the construction of the Planetary Surveyor drone. Good progress has been made so far, blocking out the basic shape and installing the main functional components. Now the time has come to install the remaining survey equipment, the supplementary ion thrusters, and get the hull completed.
Hello fellow engineers and welcome back to the Void. Today we need to finish off the COMSAT carrier. So we're going to dive straight in. The focus areas for today, we need to do the front. That's pretty much it. Just need to do the front. Need to get the satellites hooked up to make sure that everything fits properly. And then we can just finish off the Greebles. What we need to do to finish this off is we need some event controllers. We need a broadcast controller. We need an antenna. We need the ion thrusters. I think that's most of it. I think that covers most of it. So a lot of that can come into the front part here, because we will struggle to integrate it further back. Okay, I'm thinking for these ion thrusters, I might do them on a separate pylon similar to this, but coming downwards instead. Because the only axis we have to avoid is the one in line with the connector. The satellites themselves, they're only about 3x3 centered around the connector. It's the panels which are the long ones, and they only line up with this. So as long as we do our ion thrusters not in line with this line, we'll be fine. So I'm thinking maybe connecting them to the front here. Do something like that. And then use these 45-degree slopes to bring it down. It needs to be a fair way below this, I think. So I think we will want this to come onto the top of this thruster pod. So we can bring it down like... Or do we want it... I don't think I do want it perfectly in line. I think I'm gonna... So this is the line I'm trying to avoid. We just take it up by one. Yeah, there's only one block gap between that. So we can either start it lower to give a significant gap, or maybe we use the 2x1 slopes. I'm going to have to think about how I want to design this, because I am struggling. I'm struggling to visualize what I want. I'm also just mindful that these reactors only put out... It's not going to tell me. Only put out 15 megawatts. And the biggest ion thruster... The big ones put out... the big ones take 33 megawatts to power. So even both reactors on this are not enough to fully power one big ion thruster. Which means I'm going to need more reactors if I want to do more ion thrusters. For the small ones, they require 3.3 megawatts, but they put out barely any force. Yeah, I'm going to have to think about this. Okay, so to help with the fact that we don't have enough reactors on this to do much of the ion thrusters, we're just going to cut these conveyors out, replace them with some warfare reactors. Let me put that on. No, I didn't. Let's get that in the build planner. And we've done the same on this side. I'll probably reshape this just to fit a bit better. The other thing we're going to do is, instead of doing engine pods, I'm going to fit the ion thrusters here. At least for lateral thrust. Probably some on the top as... Oh no, the ones on the top are going to cook those engine cells. So I'll find somewhere else to fit some more. Probably under the... To be fair, under the jump drive would work. Yeah, we can fit some under this jump drive here. Let's get these thrusters fitted down here. I'm going to need at least 3. So 3 of these makes 1 of those. Cool. I'm going to cut off that connector now because it's kind of in the way. Oh, but it's the only thing connecting... Yeah, I can cut off the connector. I can't remove the conveyor. That's fine. Okay. What else do I need to do? I need broadcast controller, event controllers, antenna. Maybe a few more gyros as well. A few more gyros wouldn't hurt. Cool. I am going to need to do a bit more thinking of how this is all going to go together, but it's starting to shape up quite nicely. Okay, this is quite heavy now. But we're loaded up with components for welding up the thrusters and the gyros that I've just added. Hopefully this doesn't go horribly wrong. But we 126,000 kilos. That is way overrated for what this thing is. That is way over loaded for what this thing is rated for. Alright. Let's do the 3 on this side. Let's do the 3 on that one. And we'll do the gyros on the top. Oh, no, we've hit something. Oh, damaged something. Oh, I do this all the time. Right, we'll weld up the gyros and then we'll fix whatever we damaged. That is less than ideal. Okay, gyros are welded. Oh, wait, no, one more. There you go. Gyros are welded. Let's have a look to see what we've damaged. We have small grid beam block. Beam block. Beam block. Oh, and the cargo container got damaged. Fortunately, not too damaged that it stopped us from... Well... Oh! Also the projector, and that got damaged, but didn't show up. Yeah, that's a bit of damage, isn't it? There we go. I think everything's fine now. Okay, we just need to be extra careful when it's flying incredibly heavily. What else do I need to do? Oh, I just need to weld up the thrusters on this side. Cool. That's fine, we can do that. Oh, hang on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's get 6 of those. And let's weld these up. Oh. Easy does it. Let's not whack the ship again. I think 6 thrusters is going to be good enough. Just to supplement our left and right. We have 60 megawatts total. Do I need to do some forwards backwards thrust with these up as well? I don't think so. We have the big thrusters to do that. it may be worth putting in a couple of ion thrusters to do up and down, forwards and backwards, just so it can maintain its position if we run out of hydrogen. I think we'll do that. I just need to figure out where I'm going to place these extra thrusters. So this is what we've settled on for the thruster placement. Forwards and backwards can sit pretty much directly underneath. That thruster doesn't interfere with the solar panel. Just barely. So that's fine. I've put some downwards facing thrusters as well. Upwards facing thrusters. Down thrust, upwards facing. So they're on the top there. And then for the downwards facing up thrusters, I've put them along the centre line. Now for some extra Greeble bits, I've opted to use like this ramp and beam combo because I think it looks quite cool. And I'll likely do something similar over these bits down here. Now I'm not too sure what I'm going to do with the front here. I need some event controllers. I think definitely at least 2. Possibly 4. I need the broadcast controller. I need an action relay. That's the thing. That's one of the things I forgot. And I also need an antenna. Now I want to use the big parabolic antenna. One of those. And I'm thinking putting it on a hinge. Just to be a bit extra. Because I like being extra. I kind of want that to be a bit further forwards on like a sensing array or something like that. So I want to shape this forward section just to bring it in a bit. Oh, we also need the remote control block and some cameras. So this will be our main connection point for refueling the reactors, for filling it up with hydrogen. Which is a good point. Because this doesn't have any H2O2 generators on it. Meaning, in order for it to fill up with hydrogen, we need to bring hydrogen itself. I suppose I could. I could put some H2O2 generators in this section here. Because I can at least get 3. Even 6 if I make it a bit bigger. And it does help us extend the front here. Maybe we'll do that. Because what we need to keep in mind is this vessel is going to be like the main final surveying vessel on the other side. So it is going to need the ability to fuel itself to move. And eventually, as we catch up to it, we'll want to be able to fill it with ice and what have you. We're going for some scope creep here. What I could do is I could also send it with a mining drone. And we can use the mining drone to stock up on ice. Okay. I have ideas. I have thoughts. Let's get these H2O2 generators in. And I think I want them that way. Ooh. Ooh. No, there's no point in going for the bubbly ones because you can't see the bubbles. Unless it goes sort of that way. I mean, it does use up a lot more space doing it that way. No, I think we forgo prettiness and go purely for function. Each one of these can produce 500 litres a second. And each of the big thrusters consumes 4,000 litres a second. 800 for the small. So let me just check to make sure I've got my maths right. 500 a second times 6 is 3,000. Okay, so it's not enough to power one big thruster, but it is enough to passively make fuel. I think that'll be fine. I think 6 will be fine. The other thing to keep in mind is that these do take half a megawatt, so that's 3 megawatts. And we also have our ion thrusters to be able to maneuver when we are low on fuel anyway. So I think 6 is going to be fine. Could make it 8. Yeah, let's make it 8, why not? One more never hurt no one. Okay, sun's coming back around. I'm going to start welding up what we have left to weld. And then I'm going to start working on the front. I'm going to go for a welcome distraction because there's an unknown signal there, which could have something useful in it. But for the most part, I've spent a lot of time building, and my brain needs something to focus on other than building. So let's see what we've got. Ah, okay, one of my screens isn't working properly. But the important one is, which is our stopping distance, which is this one down here. This gives us the information needed to know if we are going to overshoot. I don't think we're going to collide. I hope we're not going to collide. We should come to a stop right in front of it. Look at that! Within 25 meters. Oh, this is the barrel one. What's in the barrel? What have we got? We got money! And some seeds, and some food. All of this is actually quite useful. Cool. Let's just quickly grind this down. Oh, actually, before that, button. Button, button, button. Nothing? No? Okay. Nice. Okay, let's deposit that and let's get back to base. Bring it down. Gently does it. There somewhere. Nice. Cool. Let's go back to welding this up then. And figuring out how we're going to integrate the front section. Oh boy, we barely fit into this gap. Oh. Barely, but we do. Nice. So I've spent a lot of time messing around with this sensor array on the front, and I've come to settle on this design. These railings I really like. They kind of give almost like an antenna vibe, and them just behind the actual antenna, it kind of gives it a bit of a extra receiver reinforcing kind of vibe. I did originally have them right up against the antenna as a single layer, but I didn't like it. The vibe wasn't right. But I think the vibe is better here. I have the event controllers and the timer block on. I think we'll only need 4, but there is room to just sort of hide them in if we need to add more. So what I'm thinking for the front is to slope it up so that the antenna doesn't interfere, and we can raise this back up a little bit. So slope up the front. Probably a relatively flat top. And on this section we can put in the last bits we need, which is the remote control, the cameras, and then we can do the extra bits of greebling. So I've done the shaping on the front here. We've got the sensor array put on. I'm quite happy with how this is going. I need to do a little bit of shaping here. What I'm struggling with is figuring out what needs to go in this gap. I've got 4 free spaces, and I'm not sure what I've missed. We have our beacon, which is shining nicely through the bottom there. We have our antennas. We have our remote control, our broadcast controller, our event controllers, and our timer. Now, I don't think we need more than 4 event controllers, but I could put spares in there. We have the space. Other than that, I'm not sure what other functional blocks we need. More batteries won't hurt. We have 4 reactors now, so I could put one. I could put one here. Put us up to 5. That is an option. I could also maybe put a hydrogen generator in here. Not generator, hydrogen engine as a backup. That is also another option. No, I don't have 4 spaces. I have 3. I can't do maths. So we have some space to bury some blocks, and I'm not sure what I want to bury in there. Choices are another reactor, a generator of some sort, or some batteries. All of which are valid options. We've also got this gap here, which I really want to put something spinny where these lights are. And I have tried desperately to find a block that would just look the part. The only one I can think of is the ore detector type 2, which will be purely Greeble. It won't be functional. Because this craft won't get anywhere near. Ooh. But lore-wise, it is meant to be a surveyor craft. It should have an ore detector on it. 100% should have an ore detector on it. So, maybe we forgo the lights, and maybe we do put the ore detector on. It's buried inside this toolbar somewhere. There it is. Yeah, let's put the ore detectors on. I've convinced myself. I want something that spins, and the best thing that fits the bill is the ore detector type 2. In fact, let's orient it so that the thing starts facing downwards. So we'll weld those up. Let's find some transition pieces for this section here before we get cooked. What am I looking for? Something like that? That works. That would work nicely. Let's get this on the other side. Do I need a mirror? No, that's fine. And then something to round this one off. Now, I don't normally use these slopes. I tend to be quite anti-slope. Mainly because I hate having to try and figure out which one I need. It's not that one. So what we might have to do is we may just have to find the closest thing that fits. So they're the right angles but the wrong orientation. Again, the right angles but the wrong orientation. Yep, that won't do. That still won't do. None of these are going to work particularly well, I don't think. Well, isn't that a shame? Do I? Some of these are very close, but they're not quite. And that is annoying. I kind of want to go... I mean, what we could do I kind of want to get a flat piece on there. So I think we optimize for that angle and this angle. Or that angle and this angle. Or we change this transition piece here. Which is also a possibility. Alright, aside from the sun, again. I think we optimize for that angle there and the flat. And then we make the other section work. Okay, I've done a little bit more greebling, a little bit more welding. I've solved the slope issue by ignoring it. We are going for a downwards slope here and just going straight into a flat for this upward slope. So that's the best way I could think of to handle this. I've added some panels over these engines just to hide them a bit more. We've welded up the ore detectors, so they're now spinning. I've gone ahead and I've added a bit of detailing over the top. And I'm quite liking this. It's a bit of a way just to recess the ion thrusters because they can go through these passages. And they don't damage them, which is something I absolutely love to see. We've added a bit more industrialization over the top. I have opted to go for a hydrogen engine for the front here, as well as an extra battery. So both those two things are now in place. I've readjusted the slopes on this section here. Before they were just, I think they were these ones. And I didn't quite like the look of them because it didn't go into a flat and didn't really protect the engine or hide it that much. So I think these slopes work better. I've fixed a symmetry issue back here. There was another one of these half scaffold blocks in this space here. And I've just done a little bit of extra detailing. So we've got these railings here, just as something I can put as a different colour just to give this a bit more texture. And the same thing here, because I can't really put anything over these without it looking a bit naff. So I was thinking of plates, but it looked a bit silly. So I think the railings do a good enough job of hiding from this, at least from an upwards angle. It does a good enough job at hiding the fact that this is still open, while also giving you good access to be able to repair and that kind of thing. So I want to say the front is done. The front looks particularly mean and finished, which I like. The back, I think, is mostly done. I think there's a bit of extra detailing and greebling I can do, as well as I think I did that for a reason, but I can't remember what it was. So the back needs finishing. The engines and the nacelles are done. I don't think I want to change anything about these. I absolutely adore how these have turned out. And I think I'll be honest, I used the aesthetic of these engine nacelles to inspire the front here, because it looks really quite menacing. So the only thing I have left to do really is I need to finish greebling the back, and I need to do something about these engines on the bottom here. And then I just need to connect up the satellites. We are very almost done. Oh, and paint it. I can't forget the painting. The painting is important. But we are very almost done here, which is good because it has taken a considerable amount of time to get to this point. So I've done a bit more greebling. We've got the side and bottom engines done now. Again, using the same kind of style with the passageways. The railings just to give a little bit of extra detailing. and just a bit of scaffold frame just to make it look like it's a bit more supported. So I'm happy with that. I've done a bit of extra detailing on the back. So we've now got the cable running on both sides. And it just looks a bit more substantial. I think in terms of greebling, that's all I can do until we get the panels connected. And have a look to see how that all goes together. So I'm going to give it a quick paint. And then we can have a look to see how it all goes together, and hopefully I haven't made any mistakes in my calculations. Because if I have, I'm in for a bad time. Bugger. Well, that was embarrassing. I was working on the Doomhole and collided with the drills. Let's quickly go back and get my stuff. Okay, let's not do that again. Let's just expand this out a little bit and we can reverse it and drill in reverse. So I've restarted the Doomhole, and it's occurred to me that I am completely out of ingot space. And I'm also filling up everything with stone, because all my ore containers are pretty much full. And this Doomhole hasn't been running for very long, since I restarted it, because we're going in reverse, we're coming back upwards, and the Doomhole itself has only progressed up that far. And yet we've managed to pick up 1 million, 2 million, almost 3 million kilos of stone. So in order to A, store it all, and B, store all of the ingots, we're going to need to upgrade our storage. It's a nice little side quest. This is almost done. If anything, I'm more procrastinating on getting the satellites joined up to it. However, storage is now something we need, and I think going for a couple of bulk cargo containers on the top of these stacks here won't solve the issue, but it will sure help. So that is exactly what we're going to do. So let's put a port there. We'll put one on this side. Now what would make sense to use the worker bee for this, I think. Just because of how close we are to another cargo port. It's okay. This isn't too bad. It is actually quicker for us to do it that way. So this expands our capacity by another 1.6 million litres, which is more than enough. So let's call this one ingots. What's that one called? That's an ores. So let's call this one an ores. Is this one an ingots? That's an ores as well. That's ores. That's an ingots. Let's call this one an ingots. Or do we... Do we call that one an ores and that one an ingots? I think we can do that. So we've given ourselves another large container for ingots, and we've given ourselves another 2 large containers for ores. Which should be fine, because we're going to be storing mostly stone in these. Oh blimey, we've almost filled both of them up already. Okay, that's good to know. What about our ingots? They're doing slightly better. Let's try and consolidate. So we've got plenty of silicon, plenty of iron. We have an amount of nickel and a good amount of all the trace other materials. I don't think I'll need to go mining for materials for a very long time. How much is how much room have we got compared to stone? Both bulk cargo containers are full. And we're already half full of one of the other large containers. Okay. I think we're doing okay with stone. How are the refineries doing? Refineries are refining. Yeah, no, they're all processing. So we're getting a lot of stone. The Doomhole is doing its job. I genuinely think we'll run out of cargo space again. No, I don't think the refineries will outpace the drills. Which is mildly concerning. Like, the Doomhole pistons aren't even extending that fast, and they haven't gone that far. Collectively, they've only gone about 12%. And it's still causing us network issues for the cargo containers. Yeah, look, that one's almost full. In the time I've been talking about it, that one is almost filled up. We have no chance. We're going to have to turn those off again. Doomhole is incredibly effective. However, that comes at a price. Okay, pistons have been reconfigured. Pistons aren't moving. How quickly are we going to process that stone? Oh, incredibly quickly. No, not incredibly quickly, quite slowly. Okay, I think we just let it process. That was close.
Editor Fiery here. I'm just inserting this clip because I got so wrapped up in various projects that I never showcased the finished build, and because the process stretched out across multiple days and multiple sessions, I didn't do a proper showcase until much later in the video.
Another quick update. I've gone through and updated all of the previous communication satellites by moving the antennas from the front to the top and the bottom, just so that they have much wider arcs available to them. That's going to make setting up the communications array a lot nicer. It's a new day, we need to go get some ice. If we want to get this thing deployed, we are going to need to get more fuel for it. So let's go find the ice asteroid. Nearest one being... is it that one? Go 14 kilometer ice. So we're going to go head over to the ice asteroid, get some ice. And then we will continue... Actually, I think that's pretty much done. I have to show you what it looks like now it's done. I've done some testing, and one of the issues I've run into is there seems to be an issue with the laser antennas where if they're too close to a voxel, it counts as being obstructed. And that's a bit of a problem because apparently the laser antennas I've got are too close to a voxel. So I may need to either move the laser antennas I have on the base or make that final satellite so that we can actually use the laser antennas as intended. The other option is I install a mod. There is a mod which removes the line of sight requirements. So we can use that as well, just to help get around this bug. Now it's a long-standing bug and I don't think it's ever going to be fixed. It's all to do with the level of detail. So as you get further away from an object, the game renders it in lower detail, just to save on resources. And sometimes that lower detail puts the polygon over the laser antenna. And I think that's the issue we're running into at the moment, and I don't think there's any way we can fix that other than move the laser antenna. So I'm going to have to do a bit more testing to see whether it is... Because the testing I've done has been off-axis, whereas what I need to do is I need to test to see whether it works with the laser antenna being directly above, because that's the direction in which the planet is. And if all that all works nicely, then happy days, we don't need to use the mod. But if it doesn't work, then I will absolutely use the mod to remove the line of sight requirement. Okay, first load of ice has been loaded up. Got a nice debris field of rocks, so let's head back to the base. We'll unload and we'll probably grab a second load of ice. Just because we have a fair few tanks to fill up. Oh, we do need to actually unload. We do kind of need to unload this ice into the Wyrm, because that's the name we're going for. We're going to call it the Wyrm, as suggested by one of our lovely commenters on the last video. So what we'll do is we'll do a few runs for ice. I'm going to deposit this load into the Wyrm so that the Wyrm can start topping off its tanks, because we added more tanks after we disconnected it from the base. So we'll let the Wyrm top off its tanks, and then we'll go do another run to let the base recharge its tanks. This stopping distance is getting quite absurd. It's going to take us 5 kilometers to stop. I feel like a freight train in this thing. And we start slowing down now. Because I don't quite know where those beacons are in relation to the actual asteroid surface, and I don't want to careen straight into it, if I can help it. I suppose this is the first time you guys are actually going to see the actual finished painted thing. Look how majestic it looks. I'm genuinely pleased with how it's turned out. Oh, and we've overshot. By quite a considerable margin. Forwards, forwards, forwards. As long as we go down gently so those other thrusters don't fire too much. Oh. We are just a little bit off. There we go. Let's unload all of this ice. Cool, I think we are mostly offloaded. That'll keep that busy for a little bit. Okay, let's deposit what's left in the main base, and then we can go off and do another run. So I'm trying to get this laser antenna working. It's facing, it's got clear line of sight. They are facing each other. However, it reckons there's an obstruction at this GPS coordinate, which I've put in here, and it's pointing to the asteroid. So apparently there's an obstruction over there that's blocking the line of sight between these two. Which leads me to think it's this level of detail line of sight problem, especially seeing as these laser antennas are barely above the asteroid surface. So what I'm going to do, just as a trial, to begin with, is I'm going to raise them up at least raise one up to above the dish and see if I can get that working. I might. Doing it back here might be a bit risky because we might be too close to this face here. But I'll give it a go. And then the other test I can do is maybe placing it somewhere else on the base. Maybe this rooftop here could be far enough away from the asteroid surface. Maybe replace this fake antenna with a laser antenna. So those are my options. I don't really want to go down the mod route. The mod route seems like a cheesy way out. Yeah, I think we go with this. Let's try raising it up on a pole, and if that works, then I will reconfigure how this laser antenna array is done. Because none of these can connect to any of those satellites over there, nor can it connect to that one over there where there is a clear line of sight.
Editor Fiery here. The audio for this section didn't really record, but the gist of it is I tried multiple different things, multiple positions, settings, just trying to get these laser antennas to work, and they just really didn't. For some reason they just kept getting obstructed by the asteroid.
I've tested various locations and various positions for the laser antenna to figure out where it could go, and each one has been blocked. So what I've opted for instead is I've towed the Wyrm out this far and see which one of these it can connect to. And this one is the most consistent, which means if we wanted to put a laser antenna on our base, we'd have to extend this pylon all the way out this far. Which is fine, it's doable. And to be fair, I'd probably do it as a separate pylon rather than extending the solar array, because that's on a rotor, and I don't want the entire thing to be on a subgrid. But that is an awful long way to have to extend it for it to start counting as being not obscured by the asteroid. We're talking about 400 meters away from its current location. And the extension itself, we're talking a good 200 meters. Or maybe 150. Maybe 150. Even so, that is still an absurd distance to cover just to be counted as being clear of the asteroid. Whereas the antennas themselves say they just need a clear line of sight. They don't. They need to... I'm not going to crash out. So, solution. We can either stick with the original plan, which was to build a 6th COMSAT satellite and have that as a relay on this end, or we go for the mod. Or we do just a stupid long extension so we can have the laser antenna fitted directly to the base, and I don't feel like that's in keeping with what we're doing here. So we can either go for the mod, or we can go for another satellite. Now, SATCOM 6, much like the Wyrm, doesn't have to have the full solar array, and if anything, because it's close to the base on this end, having it a uranium reactor powered satellite wouldn't be too bad. It'll only need 2.5 megawatts because it's just the receiver from this end to the first satellite, so it's not a two-way. I think we could make that one work. Okay, let's return the Wyrm to the safety of at least closer to the base so it's covered by the guns. And we'll get to work on designing SATCOM 6. The slow reverse back. It's a shame that the laser antennas don't work the way that I thought they would, but it's quite in keeping with this game for things to be not perfect. You know, while the sun's coming back round, and we've got the full sunlight, I can talk you through the paint job and everything else, because I don't think I've done that yet. So I've configured the lights. We have our green for port, red for starboard. We've got our connector lights, just so we can see as we get close to the connector to make sure we're all lined up. We have our teal lights flashing downwards to show which way is down. We have our white lights on the top, flashing as well to show which way is up, although they're a lot less obvious. We have our sensor array on the front. We've got our ore detectors. I've turned them off for the moment just to conserve power while we're sort of getting everything sorted. I've used these passageways as just engine guides because it lets the plumes out but also just protects the engines a little bit. And all in all, I quite like how this has turned out. Obviously we've got our standard colours. Yellow for pipes, red for hydrogen, teal for oxygen, and we've got our black, orange and white colour scheme. There's not much more to say really. It's worked out quite nicely. We've started COMSAT 6, and I'm going for a very basic approach. I've gone for a spine of batteries. 8 batteries should give us about 10 hours of battery power. We have the laser antenna on the end with a bit of a spine, or a bit of a tail. And we've got our big dish on the front, which will connect to the big dish on the base. I'm going to have solar panels on the side, both sides, just so that we can get some solar power to do a lot of the heavy lifting. And we will have a reactor as well to cover the times when either if the batteries run down, but the solar should be enough. So all I need to do is weld up the frame, add the panels, and give it some shape. That's all that's needed. So hopefully this shouldn't take too long. I've had a thought of how I want to do the solar panels on this, and looking at the angles involved, I should be able to do some kind of solar array where it only needs one set of rotors. Because as long as this ball here is pointed towards the planet, and the sun rotates that way around, I can put the panels on in a way that it can track the sun going around that way. So I can line it up in roughly the right axis. We'll try that because this is going to be close to base anyway, so if it doesn't quite work out, it'll be relatively easy to sort out. What I do need to do though is I need to move it because it's too close to the pad. So I need to move it with the tugboat and bring it a bit higher. I also need to put some thrusters on here at some point, but they are just positional thrusters to help stabilize it. I think I've got everything I need on this. And I've blocked up as much as I can before being impossible to weld. We have our antenna. We have our antenna Greebles. We have our action relay. Remote control. Gyro. One thrust in each direction for just position stability. We have our laser antenna and the laser antenna Greebles. We have 4 event controllers. We have a reactor and some reactor Greebles. We have our solar panels, which should provide the majority of the power, and the custom turret controllers to enable the panels to rotate. I feel like I'm missing something very important, but I don't know what it is. I'm not going to go with hydrogen on these ones, purely because it will be right next to the base. So if it ever does get low enough that it goes onto reactor power, I should be able to do something about it. That being said, there is no conveyor system on this at all, so it will be loaded by hand. That's why we've got this little divot here, and an access panel which will allow us to get into the back of the reactor. So I think I just need to weld it up, finish the shaping, and do all the Greebles, and then this will be ready to deploy. So the time has come for us to configure the solar arrays on this satellite. I'm just going to move it out the way of the base because I don't know what's going to happen here. Now, in theory, we go to the custom turret controller. I don't know which one of these is going to be the one which is required. I think it's just elevation. Let's call it elevation. I'm sure we'll get it wrong. And let's go for always aim at sun. Okay, maybe. Let's do the same for this one. Actually, let's call this one azimuth. See what happens if we do this for the other one. Okay, well they're both pointing in the same direction, which is good. Let's just grab those multipliers and just make them reasonable. And let's set up the rotors to also be reasonable. 1 meganewton seems okay. Let's get this into a position where these panels will start rotating. Because in theory, we just need to place it facing in that orientation. And aligned that way. So both the panels move together, which means it probably doesn't matter whether it's elevation or azimuth or whatnot. And it has just made me realise I probably could have done something similar to this on these ones over here. Not this one. No, I could have done it on this one as well. But I almost certainly could have done it on the COMSAT 1 through 4. Although, as I said because I did float the idea, the main reason for not doing it is because there's more things to go wrong. And considering this one is going to be parked near our base anyway, it doesn't really matter if things go wrong. So all in all, I call that a successful test. So while we're at it, we can also review what we've got going on. We have the solar panels. These are here just to capture the sunlight, and this will be the main form of power for this craft. We do have our batteries, which are currently recharging. We've got our solar arrays, our laser antenna, the reactors here, we've got our front antenna and its Greebles, got the action relay put in, got a gyro, got just directional thrust, so we can move it about. And we've got the remote control. So we've got all the essentials in. This will be our receiving node for the base, because the laser antennas on the base just don't work, which I find incredibly annoying. They're supposed to work, they don't. I know why, but the remedy to it is to make a really long pole to get the antenna clear of the Asteroids level of detail hitbox thing, which isn't really feasible. So in the meantime, we've got this little receiving antenna, which we will park out here somewhere. And we should be ready to start loading up the Wyrm. I need a name for this. In fact, actually no, I'll take a name. Someone suggested Spudnik for one of the, I think it was for COMSAT 1, and I think I'm going to steal that name for this one here, just so I can finish setting it up before we go deploy everything.
As much as I would like to get everything loaded up and get this survey started, that's all we've got time for this week, I'm afraid. So, thank you all for watching. I've been Fiery Shadows of the UPML, and we shall see you all in the next episode.